stories at 8:32.
The Citizens' Charter is said to be failing to meet the concerns of the British public. A task force set up to look at how public services handle complaints says many people find it too difficult to complain. It says public bodies should advertise their complaints procedures and make them less complicated.
People don't know how to complain, whether it's about hospital waiting times, road conditions, schools or rail strikes. That's according to the task force set up to look into how successful the Citizens' Charter is proving to be. Launched by John Major 3 years ago to raise standards of service, it has had some measure of success in giving a chance to the public to voice their dissatisfaction with 31 of the major public services. However, a trial phone hotline set up to receive irate calls was closed last month because of exorbitant running costs. So now the complaints procedure can be complex to all but the most hardened rail commuters.
Basically, I look at the literature and complain to whoever is necessary.
I think the bureaucracy of it puts a lot of people off, basically.
The Citizens' Charter has been quite a good idea, hasn't it? I think that's worked out quite well. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
For most people, to decide to go ahead and complain takes an act of faith which is often lacking.
People don't think that anything positive or definite is going to happen, and therefore why bother going through this long, complicated procedure, giving details, writing letters, making phone calls, going to see this, that and the other person, because they're very, very pessimistic that it's going to alter anything.
The task force report believes it's up to the public bodies to advertise their complaints procedure in a positive way and then hope for consumers to respond. Vivian Morgan, BBC News.
Well, we're joined in the studio now by Lady Wilcox, the chairman of the Citizens' Charter Complaints Task Force. Lady Wilcox, good morning.
Good morning.
People just don't seem to think it's worth bothering to complain, do they?
Well, the British public tend to moan to each other rather than to complain directly. They don't want to get people into trouble. They feel it's associated with blame. And so we've had to overcome that. You've seen such people as Marks and Spencers have overcome it by welcoming complaints, by saying, bring it back, we'll change it anyway.
Are you then blaming individual people who don't complain enough, or are you blaming the organisations for not encouraging them?
I'm blaming the organisations for not encouraging them, and a culture change that we need for the general public to think if they say something, it's going to make a difference. That's terribly important.
And you're saying to organisations that part of the difference it'll make is that your own organisation will be improved.
Yes, very often in the public services, I mean, they're going to work in the morning, they want to deliver a good service, but they find the system that they've been given from maybe the top management's not working. What I'm looking for is feedback from the people down at the front line as to how they can get a complaint system easier to access so that people can either just phone in or they know who to talk to, they can see a telephone number written up.
The Citizens' Charter is largely a PR exercise, though, isn't it? I mean, people don't really want to encourage complaints. There was an advice line that was planned, a phone advice line where you could find out how to complain, and that's been scrapped, hasn't it? I mean, what would you say to the charge that actually, underneath it all, there is no real encouragement of people to do this complaining?
I go around, I've been doing it for a year now, looking at complaints systems out there, and they're getting better, there's no doubt about it. I think the Citizens' Charter has made people more aware that they have these services by rights. They don't have them as a gift from somebody else. You are entitled to have a good service. You're paying for it through your tax. So I think the Citizens' Charter is making people more aware, and also making the people who work in the public sector aware that they've got to deliver a good service. And if we can get people to complain more, then maybe we can get these services improved.
Which areas are doing well, would you say, at the moment? Which hand out some bouquets?
Yeah, I think Lothian in the social services department, they had a very good idea. They couldn't understand why they weren't getting complaints ever from people who were living in residential homes, old people. And so they decided to actually go out and talk to people in these homes and see if they were happy with the service they were getting. So they actually went out to ask the question, is the service good?
I come back, though, to this advice line that was scrapped. Would you like to see now the government putting a lot more money into actually giving people the chance, the physical ability to complain and get their complaints seen to?
Well, in the best of all possible worlds, we'd like everything possible, but I think what we are going to press is for the public sectors themselves in their own individual places, the post office, schools, hospitals, to set up systems that people can get into themselves easily. That's the whole point. It should be for the people using the service, not for the people delivering it.
Lady Wilcox, thanks very much.
Thank you.
In Bosnia, the 2-week ceasefire between the Bosnian Serbs and the Muslim-Croat alliance is holding. But in a corner of northwestern Bosnia, fighting has intensified between two rival Muslim groups. Government forces are trying to suppress a rebellion led by a multi-millionaire business tycoon, Fikret Abdic, a former member of Bosnia's presidency. Abdic split from his former ally, President Alija Izetbegovic, last year, declared the Bihać pocket autonomous and began trading with Serb forces fighting elsewhere in Bosnia.
No other Muslim enclave looks like this. It's not a war zone, it's a free trade zone, Bosnia's Casablanca. Instead of fighting with the Serbs, the Muslims here have been trading with them. In short, sanctions busting. Convoys here are not humanitarian, they're commercial. They pass freely through Serb-held territory with none of the delays or obstructions routinely suffered by the UN. Here, money prevails, not the gun. Bringing frozen chickens from Slovenia, cigarettes from Colombia, bananas from Ecuador, beer from Austria. The giant food conglomerate Agrocommerz is the government here. The company's general manager, Fikret Abdic, is the state president, governing from a renovated medieval castle. Kladisha is his medieval fiefdom. He is master of all he and his army survey. The Bosnian government has declared war on Abdic for trading with the enemy. We would all be killed if we tried to fight the Serbs, as Izetbegovic wants, this soldier says. If we followed the Sarajevo policy, we would be destroyed like Gorazde. I don't want to talk about Alija Izetbegovic, she says. I don't want to hear anything about him. The young men of Kladisha have risen in support of Abdic, but theirs is not a serious army. They are losing ground almost by the day to forces loyal to Sarajevo. They are appealing for help now from their trading partners, the Serbs.
If you are forced to defend yourself, you take any opportunity you can. You don't have time to choose. You take what you can get.
But the front line is shifting against them. They are struggling to hold it. These are the strategic heights defending the village of Petrograd. If these fall, the village will fall too. And if the village falls, everything else could soon follow. The days of Fikret Abdic's Balkan rebellion seem numbered. Alan Little, BBC News, Velika Kladuša.
Let's have a spot more business news now. Here's Paul.
Yes, story this morning, the long dispute between Hong Kong and China over the funding of the territory's new £14 billion airport project appears to be coming to a close. Britain's negotiators in Hong Kong have said they expect to draw up a final agreement with China in the next few days. The bitter dispute over financing the project has dogged relations between the two governments for over 2